today, country music fans. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Coda Country Chats. And I'm Leigh. Today, I'm joined with Camille Parker. How are you today?
Hey everybody, I am feeling great today.
I'm so happy that you decided to hop on this call. I'm excited to hear more about your new single release that you have coming out January 29th. I got to talk to you before it released, so I'm even more excited. Run Wild is the title of this track. And when I first heard it, that's exactly what it made me want to do. It made me want to like run out of my office and like just enjoy life and spread my arms wide and just, oh my gosh, tell me a little bit more about that song and what it means to you.
Yes, well, first, thank you for having me. I
Oh
am
my gosh, yes.
really excited to talk to you and your beautiful audience and
Mhm.
more people that love country music. Run Wild is it's half personal anthem and it's half therapy for me. Being called a wild child growing up was not a compliment where I'm from. I come from a very conservative, buttoned up home where you do things a certain way. And I've always just kind of been loud and eccentric and all over the place and, the center of attention on stage with singing and dancing and stuff. So I think as I got older, I might have developed like some negative thoughts around people perceiving me as
Mhm.
being eccentric. And I used to get like really defensive about it. And now I've realized that it's something that I should embrace, especially as an artist. I think that I believe, and I'm really growing in this too. It's my job to keep the inner child alive that allows me to be able to make music. I have it's a luxury and a privilege to get to make music for people. People do like real hard jobs and like they save
Yeah.
lives. And I think the least I can do is be my full self when I show up to come in front of everybody and sing. So if you're looking for a personal anthem or trying to figure out what is this girl all about, this song I think is a really good description of that.
I I love hearing that though, because that's kind of how I embodied it, how I thought about it is it's very much like a personal representation of you as an artist, of you as a person. And you just said something that was kind of funny to me about people with real jobs and people who like save lives and stuff. In a way, I feel like music like this gives people an outlet, gives them something to relate to, and it does kind of like save them in a way. It gives them something to embrace and to make them feel like they're not alone in the world, makes them feel like they're, you know, celebrated
Yeah.
for all of the amazing qualities that they have about themselves. Like
Yeah,
as you were
I just
talking about
figured
being
me
eccentric.
since I don't know how to save any lives, me and my big mouth, I go out there and try to make people feel good. When I
No,
make
no,
these
listen.
songs.
I get it. I'm married to a doctor, and so like, and I think about like what I do on the daily and what he does on the daily. I'm like, that's a very stressful life. I don't know. I don't know if I could do that. Oh my gosh, very stressful. But I feel like performing, touring, recording, all of that is also a different kind of stress. You know what I mean? And
It is. It's a
yeah.
different kind of stress. I was a waitress for a lot of years. And I think that my waitressing has a lot to do with why I'm able to keep my cool and stay on track, especially when you're in all these environments. Like, if for anybody that doesn't know, when you're a new artist like me, there's no glitzy tour bus and, five tour managers. There's a lot of, hands-on things. So keeping a good attitude and being really patient with people, I learned that from all the years that I was waitressing. And as an artist, I mean, it's everybody's first time typically meeting you, and you do want to give your best self and you want to be authentic and honest about it. But sometimes you do have to just remind yourself like it's their first time. You gotta do the thing and just remember why we're all here.
That's right. All here just to experience music and
Yeah.
to yeah, be together. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that you said that though, because it's funny to think about how like the average listener, right? The average consumer of music doesn't quite understand or like grasp the idea of, all of the planning, all of the stuff
Yeah.
that goes into putting out a single, going on a tour, even just like showing up for an appearance. I feel like there's so much that goes into that. Oh my gosh. Tell me, when you were recording Run Wild, what was the process like? Did it take a little time? Was it like, we had to come back to it? Tell me a little bit more about that.
I wish you would have asked us about all my other releases so I could be like, it was so easy. This was the most challenging recording
Oh
of my
my gosh.
entire life. Oh my gosh. But in the best way, in the best way. So I wrote the
Mhm.
song last like springtime with a couple of friends here in
Okay,
Nashville, Tennessee.
cool.
And I think we knew we were really emotionally attached to the top line, like the lyrics and the melody. I
Yeah.
wasn't convinced about the production, but I took it to my producer Jack, and we fell in love with the track. We reworked the track, and we changed some things around, and we were like, okay, wait, I have something I like singing in my car every day. And typically with me, I'm always listening like kind of from a more critical place, but for some reason Run Wild was the one where I was like, kind of give it some passes, like, this just really feels good, so we're just going to keep it there.
Yeah.
And then it came time to talk about putting it out, and I haven't put out anything since, I think, this time, well, a couple months later, so maybe like spring of last year. So I was like,
Hmm.
well, coming back, like I want to come
Yeah.
back my full authentic, full-fledged self. So
Yeah.
this has got to sound great, and New Year's Eve, me and my manager decided that it'd be a great idea to recut all the vocals at like
Oh my
just
gosh.
all of them. Just because why not? No one's doing anything on New Year's Eve, right? Uh, so we
Wow.
did, and we went to another studio here in Nashville. And we worked with this amazing guy named Shane, who I loved to collab with, and we recut the vocals because I wanted every time people heard that song, especially people who were starting their lives over or making big changes in their lives, I want them to hear how I felt in the song and not just
Mhm.
the words I was saying. Sometimes it's easy to like country music. I can't believe I'm
You can
saying
say
this.
it. You can say it. It's okay. No worries.
Sometimes in country music, it's easy to hide behind the story because the story
Hmm.
is usually so strong, and you have all these beautiful sonics around you. But I promised myself that if I'm going to sing this, I want you to feel every single word through my voice. The same way my guitarist is playing his heart out and the bassist is playing his heart out. I want everyone on this track, and that includes me. So we re-recorded it, and I think we got something that I'm really really happy with, really
I'm
happy
s-
with, and I hope
I'm
other
so
people love it too.
I'm glad that you brought that up about re-recording the vocal because that's one of the notes that I wrote down whenever I was listening to it for the first time. Um, Especially at the end of the second chorus, there's something so pleasing and so powerful about your voice in that little section of like, coming out of the chorus and this like beautiful high note. And oh my gosh. Yeah, that was a very impressive moment for me in that song. It
Thank
was one of those
you.
like, okay, this is it. Yes. Um, so yeah, I just
I
was
appreciate
blown
that.
away.
I
Absolutely.
appreciate that a lot.
But
Thank
see,
you.
now I'm even more like enthralled by the fact that you recut those like oh
Yeah, I think there's a process, and I think that's one of the things that I love about living in Nashville and making music here. It's a city where everybody you work with is at least decently talented, which it's kind of a luxury, especially when you're just coming in and you may not have like all of the writing rooms that you would love to be in all the time. You learn how to make friends and you learn how to
Mhm.
make a community. And I think in that process, we have a day where we just write down, we call it top line, and you get all your feelings out, and then I choose to take my music and sit on it for a little while.
Yeah.
And if I can't dream up colors around it, if I can't imagine places that people would play the song in their lives, sometimes those don't always make it. And then a weird thing happens with me, and I'm kind of a music nerd, so it's different for everybody. But I think the further I get down the production line, I try to make sure there's enough room for the listener in there. And I try to turn it off from just what Camille wants to what Camille wants plus what other room is in there for other
Hmm.
energy that needs to be there for the listener. And I think that's just a part of becoming a good team player, making sure that everybody who's on it feels like their talent, their gifts are represented as well. But a little tiny bit of that has to be left, that little bit of space has to be left for the listener. So we clean all
Yeah.
that up by the time you guys hear it, and I could get into like the frequencies and all the crazy editing things that we do and the mix and all of that, but I really really do take that seriously.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, okay, and I had a question that popped up in my head. When you Right. Or when you have a song idea, do you find that you write melody first and like have it in your head, or do you write lyrics first and then like have the melody come to you after?
Neither.
Ooh, okay.
I see the song first.
Ooh, you
I have
see it.
I have to actually see it, and
Like
it
a
usually
storyboard. I love
has
that. Oh
to.
my
It
gosh.
has to hit the storyboard first.
Yeah.
And then I would say you're right about melody. I'll probably like hum something, and
Mhm.
through there I might come up with either a song title or a lyric thing. I like kind of building out the framework.
Yeah.
Um and then there are other times I could say all this and I'll come into the room with another writer and they have a way cooler idea. And you're like, all right, well, that was fun. And you go with that. You definitely have to know when to just go with the most spirited idea in the room that you want to focus your work on. But yeah, I start with the image in my mind and then I work backwards to melody and then we wind up finding the right words to say.
Interesting. No, I'm glad you said that because I've never thought, and I don't think I've had another artist. I don't ask that question a lot. Sometimes it just comes to me. But I don't think I've ever had an artist that has been like, "This is the story." It's not like the one idea. Like there's multiple ideas. There's multiple things to think about, and this is how they kind of all interweave together. And
Yeah.
that's genius. That's
Thank you.
genius, Camille.
Thanks. I'm building a little planet over here, Leigh. There's all sorts of little countries and villages and all sorts of things. They all pop up. They all have their own shape.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Well, okay, talking about another I don't know if I could call us a country, like or a village, like you were just talking about. One of the songs that I love from one of your past releases is "Spinning Out." That was
Right.
that was such a fun one for me. I really love that. Like I would turn that up in my car and I would just jam.
Thank you.
Talk to me like about the kind of compare contrast here a little bit, spinning out and run wild.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about like how that song is different for you from this one.
Oh, they're worlds different, and I've noticed it seems like a newer concept to some people. They find you in a sound and they think that's the only thing that you make,
That's
and
it.
that's really exciting when you can come back and deliver on more of those things.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, becoming a professional writer and producer, you learn very quickly to be as creative as possible because at every turn you're always learning. So with spinning out, I'll be honest, I was not in the greatest place mentally. I was just very frustrated, but I was
Yeah.
having the time of my life with all these cool opportunities that I'd worked so hard for. But I was like, I also saw the mountaintop that we still had to climb. So it was like a sobering moment in my career that I was like, okay, I'm really happy and I'm really excited, but boy, do we have a lot of work to do. And I don't
I
know
know
what
what you
I'm
mean.
doing. And sometimes when I get frustrated, I just spin out. I'm not even going to try to make it sound
Interesting.
nicer. So instead of doing that, I was sitting in the studio with the girls and I was just like, let's just make the most ridiculous, fun song where when it's just all going to you know what, you could just be like, this is what it is and I'm fine with it and we're gonna get back on track. So that's what spinning out was, and she needed that big pop push. It's a heavily pop influence track, and that's what you need. Sometimes it's not all deep, sometimes it just needs to be silly and get it out.
Yeah, well, and I think that's why I wanted to talk with you about both of these songs because to me, like that, and you just addressed it where you're like, it's good to kind of like find one thing, but then also show your versatility almost. And I think
Yeah.
that those two songs for me really does show that for you because like you just said with the big pop push. I mean that it was such a fun song, and knowing now like where the backstory comes from, like that makes that even more I'll say astounding a little bit, where I was like,
Yeah.
wow, I did not know that this is what this song was coming from. But that's a good spin on things to make it just kind of your own, and making, I don't want to say light, but making light of a situation that you're like a little afraid of, a little bit of, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
There
for
there
lack
was
of a
a lot
better
of
word.
change happening. I was like, you know what? Let's either cry or make a song and have fun. I'm gonna choose option two.
Oh my goodness. And then to go back a little bit further in your catalog, Heartless. So
Yeah.
that was the first song that I've heard from you. And wow, I just really the lyrics on that song. really just kind of grabbed me. I was like, I've been here before. I know this feeling. This is not
Uh-huh.
this is
Uh-huh.
not something that so is this song written from like personal experience, or
Oh,
is
that
this more
bullet
like
has a
a
name on it, honey. That is
ooh.
yes, yes, yes. It has two names on it, actually. Um,
Oh my gosh.
but I think I've really learned something through music, and I know I joke about, people having really serious jobs, but one of the things that I noticed when I started getting on the road was that people really do their best. Like most people are really good people who are just trying their best from wherever
Mhm.
they are. And I really do feel that when I get on stage, I want to be the type of artist that isn't afraid to bring the unfinished parts of themselves. I used to believe that I shouldn't be listened to until I was perfect, or until I was perfectly country, or until I was, perfectly mature as a woman and a wife and all of those things. And I talked to my grandmother about it. My grandmother said, well, girl, you're going to be waiting forever. So I figured, I figured
Grandma
that
knows. Yeah.
yeah, find a healthy way to go through, some of these emotions, and they're not always positive. I can't say that Heartless is, a super positive song, but I think what's positive about it is me being able to own my role in these relationships, and saying the thing, giving myself room to say the things that maybe I didn't have the courage to say directly towards that person or towards that situation. And sometimes we just don't always have the words, especially in that song. I felt like that because sometimes we are taken advantage of when we're really kind and we're really nice, and you
Yeah.
come out on the other side and you feel a little foolish, and you're like, wait a minute, now I'm a smart girl too, not just a nice girl. So
Mhm.
that's what that song was for. And I'm really proud that I gave myself the space to say, hey, I actually didn't like that, and if I did know better, I wouldn't have done that at all.
Yeah. Mm. I'm
But
so
you know
well. And okay, you just brought up something when you said you didn't have the courage to say something in the moment. I feel like that happens to me a lot. Or like or after the fact, if I've been in like a confrontation or something like that, and then I'll have like the most amazing walk away line, and like it comes to me 3 hours later, and I'm like, dang it,
yes.
why can't I say
Ah,
that?
mine was
So
in the
frustrating.
mirror, and I was like, I would have used my heart less. It was one of those moments where I was like, all right, I'm so glad you did not say that during that fight, but this is gonna make a really good song.
Yes, exactly. All ammunition for the best song. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm glad that we talked about that one, because that one is like really, it's right here. It's right here.
Thank you.
Okay, so going back and talking a little bit more about last year, and you said you went through a bunch of changes. I would love to know, one of the big moments from you from last year was your Grand Ole Opry debut. Tell
Yeah.
me how that came to be. Tell me, who invited you. I want to know all the things, all the details.
Oh man. Well, I had the Grand Ole Opry on my dream list. A lot of the times when I'm playing, it's at nightclubs or it's at festivals, and my grandparents who raised me, they really don't get to see me perform. So I
Yeah.
was like, if I get Grand Ole Opry one day, like I know I can bring them and they'll get it because they grew up, on shows like Grand Ole Opry and Hee
Yeah.
Haw and all the classic stuff. So that was on my list, and I really firmly believe I manifested this. I have a little thing for the fashion. I love the clothes.
Yes.
And I found
Yes.
this dress on sale, and I said I'm gonna buy this dress that I could barely afford. And I bought the dress and I put it in my closet, and I said, I'm gonna get my Opry invite. I'm gonna get my opportunity to debut at the Grand Ole Opry. And I just left it in the dress, and I kept doing my work every day. And I
Oh.
never got like an official, like, you should come and audition. It doesn't work like that. I actually really couldn't even explain the process to you. My friend Madeline, who I thought was out of town, Madeline Edwards, she's another really insanely talented,
Yeah.
gifted artist. She was in town when she wasn't supposed to be, and she was like, we should hang out. And I was like, I'm playing Whiskey Jam tonight. Like, actually, why are you even in town? Like, if you want to come, absolutely roll with us. But we're going
Yeah.
to we're going to jam. So we go to Whiskey Jam, and I love it there. So I'm having the time of my life on stage.
Good.
And I get off stage, and Madeline calls me back up on stage to tell me that I'm going to debut at the Grand Ole Opry. And I was just like, I didn't know if it was a prank. I don't know where my mind goes when these things happen. I always have the oddest reactions because I'm just looking at her like, I think I even mouth like, "Are you effing serious?" I just didn't know. But once it hit me, I just was like, oh man, like this is a part of the dream things. Like these are, I
Yes.
mean, come on, all the people that have stood in that circle, all of the women, all of the artists that are dreamers like me and, play different genres of music like me and are women and all the other beautiful things. I felt so honored to even be considered to stand in that circle. And I put that dress on, and my grandma and granddaddy were right there in the audience that night. And it was a dream come true. It really was.
Oh my
I
gosh.
love the Opry. You could say anything, but that Opry, it will always be special.
I love hearing that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's such a beautiful story. And I'm one of those people too that like you almost saved that dress. You were like, this is going to be the dress that I wear. This is it.
Yeah.
I'm manifesting it, and it's just saved in the back of your closet, and you're just waiting for the day. Oh man, that is such a like a picturesque moment. That could be a movie in itself, honestly. Like
Yeah. I think
the
sometimes those things are
sprinkler.
really, it gives you things to work for too. And every time I would get discouraged, I come and just peek at it a little bit, and I'll just be like, all right, don't quit yet. You got to wear the dress.
You got it. You're almost there, girl. You're
I'll get it
almost
off.
there. That was so sweet though. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm still thinking about it in my head. That's just the most beautiful story. Okay. Let me go back. Talking about your grandma and your granddad. I'd love to know a little bit more about your upbringing, where
Yeah.
you come from, because you did talk a little bit about like coming from a conservative town a little bit, where are you from originally? Tell the
Yeah.
listeners more about where you come
I
from. And
love I love talking
yeah.
about my hometown. I'm from
Yeah.
Durham, North Carolina. Go Bulls.
Oh.
I
That's so
love that
sweet.
city. I grew up in a neighborhood that was mostly the wives of retired Vietnam vets.
Oh
And a
wow.
lot of those men had either passed on or were retired themselves. So mostly elders. I didn't even know that people's parents could be 30. I thought everybody's mom was 60 because my nana was 60.
Oh,
So I'm
so
like, is that your
sweet.
sister? Like, actually, no, that's my mom. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I grew up with them. That my grandmother is deeply religious. She's a devout religious woman, and she instilled all of the lessons of hard work, and ethics and morality and all of those good things. And I was in church choir and the usher board and all of the things.
Oh,
And
nice.
my grandfather, that's my rainbow right there. He's my other wild child. He's a former musician. He also served in the United States military army band. So
Wow.
everybody's big on the country and all the promises of what it means to be American. In my
Yeah.
house, we love all that kind of stuff. But we also know what it's like to need to rely on community and lean into the people around you. So I love talking about Durham, North Carolina, because that's what I had growing up. If you got in trouble at home, you also got in trouble at your auntie's house up the street, and at your other auntie's house down the street. So it was one of those environments. And I think that a lot of places that I've been, it just doesn't compare because of that. I had something that I know now as an adult is really special and really rare. So anytime I can talk about them in that positive way, I love to. They taught me everything I
Oh,
know.
that's amazing. So, okay, um, when did you start songwriting? When did you start singing? I'd love to know more about your musical journey too.
Yeah, it kind of starts and stops, and I know that traditionally I'm supposed to say like I've always wanted to be a singer since I was 2 years old. But the reality is there are the things that you love and then the things that you think are realistic to do. So I love
Yes,
singing in the church choir and all of those things, but in my home, when you grew up, you got a job and you helped your family.
I
Being a
get that.
rock star, right? Being a
I
rock
get that.
star, it's a beautiful idea, and it was
Mhm.
never discouraged in my home. But it's just a very practical way of looking at the world, if that makes sense.
Oh
So
yeah.
it starts with me having a lot of passion and desire, and then reality coming in, and then you have to get the real jobs, and you realize maybe these aren't the places that I should be. So then you start the music again, and then you have to deal with the hard parts of the music. So now you're doing the job that you have to keep plus the dream that you want to chase.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's not a rare story. So many of us go through that, but I bring it up and I try to highlight that nuance so that people who have to get the day job or the service job or have to put down the dream, even if it's just for a short time like me, to not have shame around that. Because the people who are the people that I look up to, who have done the things that I dream of doing as a musician, they constantly tell me that this is the name of the game, is holding on to the dream and being okay with the hard work that comes with it. That's just a very long way of saying that, but it started and it stopped, and it started and it stopped. But I'm very proud that I always knew to stick with it, even at times where, the bills are coming in and you got to do all those things just to keep it floating. But I think they gave me discipline to keep going, especially now that things have changed.
That's such an encouraging way to look at it, though, because like you were saying, I don't know, there are other people in life who are probably like, oh, well, I didn't make it this month. I guess I'll give up on it now,
Yeah.
and just, I don't know. I think that's such a great way to explain it to other people. And I hope the listeners out there kind of tune into that. And if they're going through something like that, where, they're almost at their, wits end, and they just can't keep going, there's always a reason to keep going. And really,
Yeah.
that's like that internal struggle of knowing like that you're on the precipice of something great, but there's still like the work to be done, like we talked
Yeah.
about earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you told me that, because there are times too when I've had artists kind of explain, oh, well, I've always been singing and I just been going and doing, and then all of a sudden, whoop, I got a number one. I don't know. I feel like that's not real life,
And
and
sometimes it happens like that, and it's amazing when it does. But I'm always sitting there like, you've never had a job? Like, wow. So
yes. Oh my
everybody's
gosh.
path is different, but yeah.
No, I think that's the perfect encapsulation of you becoming the artist that you are now, and it really does show, the tried and true Camille coming through. And what a great way to kind of talk about that in the same episode that we're talking about Run Wild, because that again is like that personal anthem of you just being you. And thank you. Thank you for being you on this episode with me today. It's
Oh,
been
thank
really great
you.
to get to talk to you and get to know you a little better.
Thank
So
you.
before we hop off the call today, I do want to ask, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to, or anything else that you'd like to promote? I know that we really didn't talk about like any tour dates or any performances or anything else that you have coming up, but now
Yeah.
go ahead.
All right. Well, the stuff that's coming up immediately, let's get that out of the way. My baby, Run Wild, she'll be out on January
Yay!
29th, and I'm so proud of her. I want to shout out everyone that worked on this project with me, my visual team, my team that helped me record this, my manager, Big Al Management, all of those people. But honestly, the only shout out that matters is to the people that listen to music and who love what we do and who give artists like me a chance. So shout out to you and your platform and all the
Oh,
listeners that
thank you.
support you. And moreover, this whole world that loves country music and country adjacent and all these other things that are popping up around it. I'm really grateful for it. I've never felt more inspired to create than a time like now, more inspired to be resilient in a time right now. This is a time where I think it's just a beautiful place to know who you are and to walk firmly in that. And I really just encourage everyone to just keep their light on, and keep that happiness and keep that joy. And if you've been having that joy, then send a little to a neighbor or a friend. I think that's really what matters. All of the promotion stuff and the opportunities, y'all will see me. It'll be great. It'll be fantastic. But I've just had such a fantastic year discovering music and really learning what it means to be an artist. And wherever I can go to be an inspiration to others, that's what I want to do. So shout out to everybody being inspired, and that includes me being inspired every day by people like y'all.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's gonna make me misty eyed. That was beautiful. Oh man. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for inspiring us too.
Thanks, man.
Listeners out there, be sure to check out Camille Parker's new single release on January 29th for Run Wild. Y'all, it's gonna be an amazing song. Make sure that you stream it on all the platforms. And if you aren't currently doing so, follow Camille, all the social media platforms. Check her out on her website and all that good stuff, right? Thank you again so much, Camille, for coming on the episode today. You are
Thank
awesome.
you.
All right, listeners, y'all have a great day. See you soon.